And now back to KDLM Hodge Podge, also airing on Lakes TV3.
It is the second segment of Hodge Podge, and happy to be joined with Detroit Lakes Police Chief Todd. We're going to talk a little bit about mask enforcement and if the city of Detroit Lakes plans on enforcing the statewide mask mandate, which goes into effect on Saturday, and if they do, what that will look like. So thanks for joining me today, Chief Todd.
You bet, JT. Thanks for having me.
So we've been getting a lot of questions here at KDLM over the last couple of days. As soon as the governor announced this statewide mask mandate, we've been getting questions. Okay, so what does this mean? Do I have to wear a mask at work? If I'm going to the beach this weekend, do I have to wear a mask? So let's dive into some of that first, and then let's get into the question about enforcement and what that looks like. So what are the particulars about wearing a mask?
Sure. So starting tonight at midnight, the mask order goes into effect. And as you know, and most of your listeners know, this is an executive order from Governor Walz. And regardless of people's feelings of whether or not it's right for him to do that, the order carries the force of law in the state of Minnesota, the way our Constitution and statutes are written. So the order goes into effect tonight at midnight. And in general, broad terms, the order requires Minnesotans to wear a mask in indoor businesses and indoor public settings. And it also requires workers to wear face mask coverings outdoors if it's not possible for them to maintain social distancing. So your question, do I have to wear a mask at the beach? You would if you were working on the beach, according to the order, but if you were just enjoying a day off and recreating, then you would not.
Yeah, so that's quite the distinction. If you see someone working on the highway, in theory, they need to wear a mask. But if I'm just enjoying a day on the beach and I'm outdoors, assuming I'm able to social distance, I don't need to wear a mask. Well, it gets to be a little sticky.
Just to clarify, the workers only have to do it if they can't maintain social distancing.
Okay. So as far as enforcement, and if I read the executive order correctly, let's see, it says here that if you violate the order, it could be considered a petty misdemeanor and carries a $100 fine for individuals. So let's talk about the city of Detroit Lakes, and I'm guessing each city is a little bit different. Do you plan on going door to door or, driving around looking for people without masks and issuing them $100 tickets?
Well, I think to preface my response to your question, JT, is the City of Detroit Lakes Police Department is a relatively small department. We only have 17 sworn members, and that includes me. We have 12 members of our department that are assigned to work patrol, and the remaining are given different assignments, such as investigators or school resource officers or things such as that. We don't have the manpower to take on a responsibility that large. Our officers are busy from the beginning of their shift till they finish their shift. And I can tell you right now, we only have 2 patrol officers working the street right now in Detroit Lakes. So that's a pretty big ask for us to go around to all the businesses and check to make sure people are wearing them. The way Governor Walz wrote this executive order, he places the responsibility onto the business owners. So if you own a store in Detroit Lakes, this order is really directed towards you, that you need to make a reasonable attempt to ensure that people are complying with the governor's mask order. And what's reasonable, I would say that if you had a person inside of your business that wasn't wearing a mask, you should ask them to wear a mask. I think that's universally interpreted as reasonable. I can go through the steps that they actually outline in the order if you'd like me to, just for local business owners.
Yeah, no, I think that would be helpful because I'm curious. Let's say I'm a bar owner and somebody comes in and they say, I'm not wearing a mask. Sure. And you say, could you please wear a mask? And they say, absolutely not. What is their next step?
It doesn't specify. They just need to make a reasonable attempt. Now, any business owner has the right to ask a customer to leave their establishment, and I think the police would then become involved if the person refused to leave. But let me read you what requirements the governor spelled out for businesses. I know reading on the radio is never a desirable thing, right? But I'll try to summarize it and be really quick. It says that business owners are presumed to be compliant with this executive order If their employees are working are wearing face coverings, they've updated their preparedness plan to address the face covering requirements of this order. They have posted one or more signs that are visible to all persons, instructing them to wear face coverings. And the fourth one is the business makes reasonable efforts to enforce this order with respect to customers and visitors. Okay, so as long as the establishment owner makes a reasonable attempt, and they've done those other 3 steps as well in advance, they're compliant with the executive order. Where I would see the police becoming involved in a situation like this is going back to your example. If you owned a bar and you had a customer in that was not wearing a mask, and you as the manager or an employee approached that customer and said, "Sir, we need you to wear a mask in compliance with the governor's order," and the person refused, and you chose to take things a step further and ask him to leave your establishment, and he refused to leave, then the police should come and investigate it as a matter of trespassing, just like we do at dozens of other businesses every day.
Now, I understand that the state is providing chambers of commerce throughout the state with masks, and business owners should be able to get a handful of masks if they contact their local chambers. But it sounded like the state was also going to provide local police departments with masks. And if I understand what the governor was suggesting, although there is the potential for a petty misdemeanor if you're not wearing a mask, but what it sounds like he's asking police departments to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to be more of an educator. And if you see someone who's not wearing a mask, and they probably should be, you'll have a handful of masks to hand out. Is that correct?
Well, we have not received any masks from the state. The masks that we have are limited in supply, and they're for our officers on emergency situations or calls that maybe have a COVID element to them. So the state has not provided us with anything to hand out to people. They haven't communicated with us about doing that or asking us to do it. Certainly wouldn't be something we wouldn't be opposed to helping out in that way. But again, go back to our staffing levels, that we're just trying to keep up with the calls we have now and the emergency situations we have now. And asking us to go around and deal with this mask order really puts us in a bad position to continue providing the emergency services that we really need to provide.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. Did the state or the governor reach out to your police department or police departments within the state that you're aware of and ask you how this is going to affect your department going forward?
No, I haven't been contacted by any representative of the state.
Well, that puts you in a bit of a tough spot.
Well, a little bit. It's been similar during the initial stay-at-home orders. Things have been handled very similarly. We have an email group that the Department of Public Safety will communicate to us through, and that reaches, I believe, most of the chiefs and sheriffs in the state. And so we do receive some communications from the DPS, but regarding the masks, handing them out, we haven't been contacted about that at all.
Yeah, that's interesting because I see here a quote from the governor when he issued this statewide mask ordinance, where he suggests that police departments will be supplied with masks to give out to employees not to employees, but to citizens. And it sounds like you're not expecting to receive masks at all.
Well, I'd be happy to get them. We can always use more. They're really tough to come by early in the COVID situation, but I've built our stockpile up where I'm comfortable just for emergency response to give to our first responders, but I don't have enough to go beyond that.
Right.
We're open to looking at doing that. We're not planning on driving around and walking through businesses and issuing people citations. We understand that this is a really controversial issue with people on both sides of the fence of this argument. The fact of the matter is that the governor's put out an executive order, and people should view that as having the force of law, although I don't intend on having our officers out arresting anyone or giving them citations for it.
Talking to Detroit Lakes Police Chief Todd today about mask enforcement. I want to thank you for joining us today. If folks have questions about the mask ordinance, if they're curious, can they reach out to you? Can they contact you?
I think they've all called me already, JT.
We've all got questions.
We're going to work our way through it just like we did with the other executive orders. It's we only got the order yesterday, and it's a very long order, and Governor Walz writes these, and they're very complex. and there's dozens and dozens of exceptions and different angles that you can read into. So it's going to take some time to work our way through this and find the best way to get through this with our residents in Detroit Lakes. And that's who I serve as the city of Detroit Lakes. And we're going to do our best, and we think people should follow the governor's order, and we're going to do our best to help facilitate that.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. It's 1340 KDLM Detroit Lakes.